Hello and welcome to this episode of the Values Workshop, which is under the series of the Vulnerable Me. The idea is to discuss various vulnerabilities that we face in our lives and how we tackle them. The question that is running in my mind is that at the age that you are in, where you are seeing the world uh, as an opportunity perhaps, or as a challenge, maybe both. So the first question I want to ask you is, how do you view the world? And not necessarily from the perspective of your family or your friends only, but just as a person who's recently become a teen, how do you view the world?
I was just thinking about that. I think that it has a lot of it has a lot of variety. I think because there's there are so many there's so many different ways to view it, but I think that I have like quite a general perspective where there's all kinds of people that you can meet where they are they can be nice people, not so nice people, and there's also like lots of, I think, habits and also actions that are also positive and negative, but some of these things, it's like, I think, because a lot of the thing, like with the environment, I think like global warming is quite, and those kind of things where you think about how small things you can do to change it from your perspective. It's like, I feel like a lot of people think, well, if I don't, there's no point in me doing something. Sorry, there's no point in me doing something because it won't make anything. But a lot of people have that mindset. So I feel like if everyone kind of changed that mindset, we'd all be doing something to do to change this world. I don't think that we live in a bad world per se, but I think that it's like there's always room for improvement. So like I said before, you can always, if you think that just because if I'm doing something it won't make any difference, I can still try, and I'm amongst some people who are doing something. So if we all work together, I think, to do something small, you can do it. So for example, earlier this year, I was in one of my geography lessons in school, and I learned about how the meat industry is one of like the biggest contributors to um, global warming. So to do that, I cut back on meat. So now I only eat fish, and I used to really like eating like all of it, but I just feel like it's definitely, because I still need to have some protein in my diet and stuff. I have fish, but I still feel like although it's quite small of a change, it's made me feel like I'm at least helping in like a really small way.
It's very interesting how you understood the wisdom of personal agency when it comes to making a global change. Most of the time, it seems overwhelming and there's no hope. But when we start to change ourselves, I think there is a certain sense of pause, because you start re-looking at your actions from a new point of view.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to ask you was, how do you see this change affecting your internal uh, outlook of life, when you've taken a step which is personal, but it has a social implication?
So like with my friends and my family and people I know.
No, for yourself. So on one hand, there is an imaginative concept because the world is too huge. So global warming by itself may mean that one day you're feeling hot and one day you're not feeling so hot. And it's not such a big deal. But it's more conceptual than real for most of us sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas taking a conscious call where you are affected by your own action, which is consciously done rather than unknowingly. So how does it make an internal difference to your moral compass, to what you feel about yourself, or your own place in the world?
Well, I feel like I don't think that um
Hmm.
I think that in no way it has granted any major impact on my life, because it's like I said, like eating, my diet is quite important, you know, in the way I live. But I realized that with it's I kind of almost forgot about it after a while. Like, like near the beginning, I know I did make a few slip ups. Like I thought duck was a fish, and I accidentally had some duck. But now I've come a lot more far, and it's like um sometimes I do miss it when I'm seeing like some nice videos of like someone eating fried chicken or something like that. But when I'm with other people and they're eating meat, I don't per se feel like that. I don't feel any envy of it or anything. It's like I feel like I feel with my eating the fish, because I love fish a lot, and eating and just my diet as well. Like I think right now is just it's so I think it's a really good balance for me, because while and I personally, like, I don't mind if anyone's eating whatever anyone's eating. Like I have no problem if you're eating meat while I'm around, because I think that, like I said again, it's a personal choice about what you choose to do. And like while they might not be like while other people may not be thinking like, oh, about the world in a way, then we might be thinking about the world in a way where we could both do one small thing. And while they might choose not to do it in their diet, they might do it in something else. So, and even so, if someone doesn't think about it, doesn't even think about it that way, it doesn't cross my mind. All I'm thinking is that like I'm just happy to be there with these people, and also like I'm just appreciative of like the food I have, because uh the at the end of the day, it's like I'm still being fed, I'm still eating. And although there's like I said, there are times where I do feel a bit like, oh, that does look really good, this chicken or something like that, I'll still think, well, it it's only a short, it's just a small thing that I'm only going to eat for maybe no longer than a few minutes, and it will pass. So that, I guess, like makes me think, oh, okay, it'll be fine then.
Okay, that's very inspiring at your age, to think about things in a way which are practical, and one can apply them in real life rather than just talking about them, or holding a banner or a flag is an easier thing, but actually living it in real life is uh, a lot more difficult because it demands sacrifice. Um, okay, since I've just made up this point, do you think anything worthwhile requires sacrifice of some kind?
Sorry, meaning?
Uh, like anything worthwhile that we need in our life, it always demands some kind of sacrifice from us.
Okay. So like sacrificing time or things like those.
Anything, sacrificing time, something we love, uh, a relationship or something, it requires something that is dear to us. It's like payment for being better. You think that's always the case?
Um, Sorry, I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, please do.
I think that when you choose to do something to become a better person, you there's always an extent you can go to with it. So like, meaning there's always so on the other side there'll be always an amount you can pay. So like if you pay more, you'll get more in a sense. But I also feel like sometimes it can be, well, I feel like, yeah, I feel like you will always be sacrificing something, whether it's big or small. Um, and I guess when it's small, it makes it easier to do. So you could always just do a lot of small things rather than just one big thing, or vice versa. Anyway, because either way, like when I'm thinking about it, um, I think that when mm, okay, I think when you choose to do something, yes, you'll always be sacrificing something, no matter how big or how small it is. And like obviously, like I said before, I think the bigger the deed, the more you're sacrificing. Um, and like you said, that can be like almost anything. So if I think of an example, you could be, hmm, well, this isn't the most, for me this is not that much of a well, it was initially a sacrifice, but I think that, like I said, becoming pescatarian was quite a was a change from when, because I used to like really like eating meat, but as I've come along, I've realized that the sacrifice of not having meat in my life has reduced and reduced because it's become a habit now. So I think that with the, like I said, with the smaller deeds where you sacrifice less, it's more of a short-term thing. And although like both of them, like I said, you could do a lot of small things, or one big thing. The big thing might seem like a big challenge initially, but as you go over time, you realize that the thing that you're sacrificing has less meaning to you.
It's so beautiful because that was actually going to be my next question, but I'll give it a perspective in that sense. Uh, do you think perseverance or persistence in whatever you pick up as a goal of, because this is the values workshop, I would want to uh, talk a little bit about that, in trying to be honest, in trying to be not to pick up something that belongs to somebody else, or uh, we take a lot of things for granted. Say, for example, I'll give you an example which is fairly small. So, if I come to your house, you're a friend of mine, and your parents know me, and I automatically connect to your Wi-Fi without actually asking you, because oh, we are friends, I know the password or whatever. But if you actually ask for permission, or at least inform, because we are friends, sometimes it gets very uh, awkward to be asking, because then they feel suddenly what happened. But just as a matter of course, if one starts to do something as small as that, it makes you very conscious of what you're doing,
Yeah, yeah,
rather than the impact of the Wi-Fi or the connectivity or whatever else is at stake. The idea is your own mind space becomes more alert. Oh, I am supposed to let them know that I'm using it, if
yeah,
if not actually asking for permission.
yeah,
And it makes a huge impact, because on the other parts of your life, it automatically makes you conscious about things that you were earlier not conscious of, because you become
yeah,
conscious and mind becomes used to the habit of, oh, you become uh, aware of a certain way of living. Then again, on the other parts of your life, it starts acting up like that. Then you're more aware, then you're more aware. So my question is, how boring is it to live up to values, or how challenging is it, considering that the world is more mesmerizing in its glamour and victories and successes? Uh, what we see out there is get it at any cost
yeah,
kind of life. Uh, at your age, when you see all of this, and the appeal is obviously there, you cannot say that you do not want any of these things. How do you look at values and what role do they play? If possible, do not give me an idealistic answer, but maybe somewhere you found a challenge and then you lived up to it.
Like an example.
If possible, where you thought, oh, I would have wanted this, but I will have to let go of this because ABC, or maybe not, you couldn't let go. It could be a smaller thing because you are on camera.
I just think about it.
Yeah.
Like, could it be something that like I'd want, like something I'd want to receive, like a present or something that I want for my birthday, or is it something where it's more like something not that's not really an object, something that's more of like an action, or can it be either?
Could be anything. The idea is that you want it and you will have to compromise on something, some kind of value system, and you will enable the getting of it in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can I take studying for an example, or revising? So I think that, so like I said, that I have quite a lot of exams coming up, and I've had this whole holiday, and I realized that I haven't done that, like that much as I wanted to do in my studying and revising, and which has made me feel quite unprepared. So I think that when I'm not revising, when I want to do something, like for if I'm hanging out with friends or if I'm watching something, I'm letting go of that feeling where am feeling confident for my exam. I'm letting go of having a definite good grade on my exam. Whereas like when I'm actually studying, I know that I'm giving up like times where I can hang out with my friends, times where I can watch something. But I feel like it's one of those things where, like you said, like the glorious side of it is getting the good grades and getting high marks and everything. But in the process of it, I'm sacrificing, I think, not initially, not always my relationships, because I feel like you also, when I'm around people who understand, like my mom and my dad, they obviously they don't mind because they know that I'm studying and I'm working hard. But I feel like I am sacrificing doing other things, other chances. But then again, I feel like it's like you said, when you're doing something, what like you said, what to do when what are you sacrificing when you want something, but you have to sacrifice something and to enable it. That's the thing. I want to get good grades. I'm sacrificing doing other things, like my time, doing more fun things, but that enables me to get the good grades.
Okay, that's very wonderful because understanding there is a cost to everything. Either positive or negative doesn't matter, but there is a cost to everything. And if you pick up the responsibility for that, then you become a lot more responsible towards yourself and clear about how to go achieving your goals. Is the word sacrifice valid in that case?
Meaning, sorry?
I'm saying sacrifice by itself seems as if we are letting go of something, and it's a painful process of that letting go. But when it's a calculated call that you're not having fun, but revising your studies to get a good grade, well, you are at the receiving end of that entire transaction with yourself. So there is no sacrifice really, or is there? Because the word
That's a
has
good,
negative connotations.
yeah, that's a good point. I think that Well, because I think sacrifice can mean quite a lot of different things. So maybe there's one part of sacrificing where you do something but you never get it back. But I feel like the meaning of sacrifice, for me, I feel like sacrificing something is you sacrifice something to enable something else. It can be anything else. So because I'm it's when I feel like yeah, I would use sacrifice in this instance because I'm I'm giving up something, I'm letting go of something which I do want to do, but it is enabling me to do something else, like getting those good grades. So, but I am sacrificing that, and I'm sure that in the moment, it does feel quite like I wish I was doing this. If I'm thinking about studying, I will be thinking, oh, I wish I was with my friends. I wish I was watching movies, something like that. So yeah, I do think it is valid to use the word sacrifice.
Okay. There was another question. Give me a second. I had another question there. When one sacrifices something, there is a certain higher moral ground in our heads. Oh, I am so good. I am letting go of. One of the interesting things that I'd read a long time back is you're letting go of a lesser happiness to go for a better quality of happiness, which I
Yeah.
find is a good way to look at it sometimes.
Mhm.
Uh, However, suppose you were letting go and you have sacrificed something, but you still do not get the grades that you anticipated.
Oh, okay.
And now, how do you relook at that entire episode? Do you regret sacrificing the time, or how do you go about that?
I think that the pros, like the idea of getting good grades, always like behind the curtains, you will always have to put in the time and effort and work to study and revise. So I think that if I do get a bad grade, initially I will think, why did I bother like studying? Why did I bother sacrificing all those things? But I think over time I'll realize, well, that's kind of the only way I could have gotten those good grades. And there might have been another aspect which may have stopped me from getting those, which may or may not have been in my control. So I think that, yeah, initially I will feel a bit like I regret sacrificing those things, but I feel like that's kind of part of the process um where you have to like you'll always have to you with studying I'll always have to sacrifice my time and sacrifice doing other things with other people, and whether that has a good outcome or not, like the expectation is that I will have a good outcome, but in that one anomaly where the outcome is not good, it's like an anomaly is like you don't count that as part of the mean. So and the mean of my studies is that I want it to be good, so like high. So that one anomaly where I don't get a good mark is something where I'll reflect upon it after I leave my regrets. I'll think about it, and think what went wrong, and I'll be able to maybe change something in there, or if it's something that wasn't in my control, then I kind of just accept it and move on, because I think there's not much you can do about it.
Okay. How do you think living a morally correct life makes life less fun?
Um, well, I think that it depends on a morally correct life. I think that we a lot although there's like a general understanding of what something, we all have our own idea of what something fun is, and I guess from switching to, so like, when you mean living a morally correct life, are you saying like every single thing we do is morally correct? Like, where there's nothing we do where it's like not morally correct, where everything we do is like we think, and we're always like we might be sacrificing something for it. Is that what you're saying?
Say your friends are, again, to continue the same example, your friends are calling you for a movie or something, and your parents are not in, and you have a chance of bunking your class or not studying, and everyone is going. See, on the surface of it, it is just a movie.
Yeah.
But the underlying things that nobody speaks of is friendship, the bonding, the Ria is a cop out. She doesn't, do fun things. What a bore she is, and all those things that you do not want to hear about yourself because you're
Yeah.
making a choice. Uh, so how do you evaluate? Okay, no, doing the right thing is that I want to attend this class or take a call. Attend this class sounds very boring, but I'm saying the idea mainly is that you take a call because you feel so, vis-a-vis other pressures, uh, to have a different kind of fun, which you may also find fun.
Yeah. So
How would you go about it? The idea is it may not have happened, or maybe on the face of it, on camera, none of us would say yes, we would do it, or obviously. But I don't mean to judge. I mean to understand. How does one look at it?
okay, so if I use that example, I think that while it's kind of where you think you win some and you lose some. So if I do choose to go and bunk off school with my friends, I'll be winning, and I'll with like my friendships, and my friends will think like, oh great, she's coming along, at least she's not boring and everything. And I'm having the movie and everything. But once the movie's over and I go back to class or I go back home, whatever it is, I realize that the consequence of that action is that I missed out on the of the subject knowledge, or I will go back to school the next day and I'll get told off for not for bunking off. So whereas I think that also, if I did choose not to go with my friends, I would be winning that, like, oh, I actually, like, I know this content. I didn't, like, with the other girls in the class, I didn't go off with them, so my teacher has me in her good books or something. But I did lose that aspect where my friends might now think I'm a bit boring, and I lose that idea of me being fun, and they may not want to hang out with me anymore. So yeah, so I may lose a friendship for that. So I think that it depends. I think it depends on what you choose, what you as a person think would choose. So like, personally for me, I I I wouldn't go off with my friends to go to the cinema, because I would be a bit scared of getting told off and things like that. But I know that I do have also a big FOMO, fear of missing out. So I definitely have a lot of internal conviction about it, but I think I would lean more to like staying in class, because I feel like I'd want, when I'm looking at this exact situation, the short-term winning, although, like, yeah, friendships could might last a long time, that short-term thing of watching a movie is, I think, sorry if I'm just rephrasing it. So when I'm rethinking about it, I think when I'm saying with the things you can lose, it's possible to make up for it, I think. So if you chose to stay in class and you missed out on the movie, you would be able to maybe, and your friends might think you're boring, maybe you can make up for it by when you're not busy, when you're not focused, when you don't have to focus on studies, you can take your friends out for a movie, or you can take your friends out for dinner or something like that to make up for it. Or if you go to the movie, yeah, if your teacher might tell you off, but if you're missing the lesson content, you can always catch up from another friend's book or something like that. So I think that that's just one situation though. So I think I can't think of it at the top of my head, but I'm sure there are also other situations where it's not as easy to just make up for that loss. So yeah, I think that's what I'm saying.
So you're saying it may depend on the day, on the situation. Once you are into the detail of it, to make a more conscious call on whether the movie wins or the class wins, even in your case,
Yeah,
depending on what you can catch up with data.
yeah.
Um, at your age, do you all talk about retaining some sense of value system, or does this topic ever come up, or do challenges come up where you have to discuss the morality of a situation? Uh, has this happened, and have you like has it been challenging in any way?
So amongst like my friends and people, we don't really talk about these things because it's just one of those things where we have it, it's not as per se like a very serious topic, but it can be quite deep. And with sometimes with when you're like already in quite like, because I'm with my friends, I'm mostly with them in school, and when it's already quite a stressful and like hardworking environment, you kind of want to take your mind off these things. But sometimes in school we do have like we have these in my school every Wednesday we have a PSHE where we talk about, my school like teaches us and tells us about things which are relevant to our age. So for example, like staying safe on social media. There's quite a lot, obviously there's quite a lot of branches on that, but which it gives us a lot more idea of what's going on as well, and how to it's obviously it's aimed at our age group. But sometimes we do get like questions where it's like it's like, well, it's very odd though, and they were not odd, it's like the odd question we'll get, the one like different one. It's like I remember in one of my RE lessons I got a question like that about morality, like kind of like morality, where it's like you're in a desert and it's like you're in it's a very fancy car, like a sports car, and you're driving, and and you're thinking to yourself, how amazing would it be if I could just speed through this desert, but there's a speed limit of like 20 or 30 or something, a low speed limit, and you're thinking, no, I want to go like 70, 80 really high. You could always it's one of those things where it's like you have to outweigh both of the aspects of the circumstance. Like if I go really fast, there's a possibility like that I won't be able to see properly because of the wind, because of the sand gusting and everything. But if I go really slow, then I won't have that feeling, that fun. That feeling of where it's like I'm actually fulfilling something. So I think that going back to it, it's I don't remember in that exact circumstance what I chose. Like that was last year, I think, but I'm sure I chose like I wouldn't go as fast because I wouldn't want to get a ticket or anything, because that for me is like I just wouldn't want that to happen. So I think that now it's more of we don't purposefully bring it up, but if one of my if a teacher or someone, or like the school, it's more of something where it's like if someone older than me, so if someone older than me was giving it to me above my age group, then it's something that I'll actually think about. But also I think that sometimes for me personally, if I'm having like a moment, if I have a quite a long time to myself, I do like my mind wanders and I do think about a lot of things, and I think like about how I know I would have thought about that situation, and thinking about how all these, like, because I know for a fact in my class there would have been like going back to the desert situation with the car, there would have been people in my class who said no, I would have just sped off, and I would have been thinking like some other time, oh, but why would they do that? But then I'd also be trying to look at it from their perspective. So I think that I do like, if it's like a hypothetical situation, I would like to think really like deeply about it from others' perspectives, especially if it's a collective question where you're asking a lot of people. I think it's very like interesting to have that like not like almost a conversation with yourself where you're thinking about all these different things, and I think that in that way it helps you understand others more. So yeah.
Okay. One last question on this. Do you think nice guys finish first?
Meaning?
Meaning, there is a phrase, nice guys finish first. And a lot of people say that that doesn't happen in the world. It is the people who are crooked and who take shortcuts. They would be able to finish and be more successful. So what is your take on that?
I think that there's always that like you can always think about the belief, like the idea of like karma, or what goes around comes around, where it's something where you do good things and good things will come back to you. So I think I mean, right now, like where we live, there's like in this world we live, there's obviously a lot of different aspects of that, and some people may think that, some people may not. If you think like that, some people may think, why would you think that? That's just a belief. But I think that a lot of the time I like to think that yeah, that is what happens. If you do good things, you will they will come back to you and you will finish first in the long term. And yeah, I think that idea of like long term and short term, like people who take shortcuts and don't do things to the fullest extent, I think that's like it will catch up to you eventually. I think I'm just taking another example. Like when there could be two people. So one person who has taken a week to study for a test, who's like really worked hard for it, trying their best to get the best grade. And then there's the other person next to them who didn't study at all, but they're thinking in their head, oh wait, I just sit next to this person in class who always gets good grades, I'll just copy off them. So I think that person, like there's obviously the two different people, and while that person, so let's say this test, this test is a very small test in preparation for a really big test. So let's say this person got a really good grade, both of them got amazing grades on this test. But actually, when it came, and there's lots of these mini tests and this person is just the person who's like didn't revise, has just been able to copy and has gotten like really good marks. But when it's come around to the big test, the seats are now separated, they're not next to each other. This person, like the person who didn't revise, had no idea about it, or because they didn't have this like long-term knowledge of these things, they'd have to like really revise the night before, but obviously it all wouldn't have stuck and they wouldn't have the time to do all the content, which eventually led to them getting a not so good mark on something that really mattered, whereas they got really good marks on some things that didn't matter as much. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you answered pretty much in detail about the thought processes of a person your age looking at the world and your life in general at this point of time. I'll see you around. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
Bye.